Welcome back to another episode of the GCN Tech Clinic, where I aim to solve and fix your bike-related problems. So if you've got one, leave it for me down there in the comment section below, or alternatively on all forms of social media using the hashtag AskGCNTech. And with no further ado, let's crack on with the first question this week. And it comes in from Vrishali, who says their chain is jumping on different cogs on their cassette. It mostly goes down on the lower gears. What should I do for it? Right, it could be one of a couple of things really. First of all, maybe your bike's taken a knock or you've dropped it and then the rear derailleur hanger has become slightly bent, which means you're not getting perfect gear changes. If that is the case, then you could take it down to your local bike shop, pay them a very small amount just to straighten that back up so you get good gear shifting. Alternatively, what it could well be is that the cables, which are changing your gears for you, have actually just become a little bit stretched. So you are likely to just need to add a little bit of tension, or even maybe reduce a little bit of tension, depending if someone else has had a look at it, of the actual cable. And by doing so, you're going to have perfectly indexed gears. There's a link below in the description where you can find a video telling you just how to do that. And next up is Douglas. Now, Douglas wants to know, they've just bought themselves a bike and it's got internal cable routing. Should they do anything special to get water out of the frame after riding in the rain? And also, can water even get into the frame tubes? Something I don't need to worry about, question mark. Right then, Douglas, yeah, a small amount of water can get inside of the frame tubes. Normally, it's via the head tube because there's a little bit of gap there for water to get in, and if you ride in rainy places such as the UK, it happens. Nothing generally though to really worry about, because in most cases that water tends to drain out from the bottom bracket because we tend to have a little hole in there for either a cable guide to attach to, or sometimes for cables to run out and back in. It all depends on your frame type, or alternatively the water can just find its way out of a chainstay where we have little holes there too quite often. If you're really worried though about water becoming stuck inside of your frame, what you can do is just simply remove your seat post, take that out, turn the frame upside down and let it drop out. But really it's not something that tends to plague us for very long. It does tend to just find it works its way out of the frame tubes. And next up is Eugene. Now Eugene says that he loves the show. That's good to hear. And a quick question. Shimano 105 rear derailleur started making squeaking sound when starting the gear shifts at the moment when the cable is pulling. Now Eugene reckons it's coming from the rear derailleur pivots or something like that. Will I need to do some disassembly work on it, or can it be lubed without taking a lot of things apart? Yeah, Eugene, I wouldn't go taking apart any of those pivots on the rear derailleurs because they're not really designed to be removed and reinserted and replaced and everything. Instead, get the bike and apply some silicone lubricant or something very similar to that from a bottle is going to be easier. Therefore, you can apply quite a precise amount and also really precisely too. And that's important because you don't want it going everywhere. You want it just to go on those pivot points and then it can soak its way in. Now you are probably going to have to turn the bike upside down as well so it can work in from all the different angles, but just be patient with it. Something else it could be, and this plagued someone I know and I managed to track it down and I was so happy and chuffed with myself. It could well be your rear derailleur outer housing where it enters the barrel adjuster and also the ferrule there, where you're putting just a little bit of increased tension when you change gear. It's causing that little squeaking sound. So just have a look at where that either outer cable or ferrule is sitting inside of the barrel adjuster, and sometimes you just need to apply just a drop of lubricant there too, just to try and free it up a little bit and try and remove that squeaking sound. But I reckon either of those two suggestions will see you just right. Right then, next up we've got Shadin, who, well, taking a little bit of advice here from a friend and he's unsure about it. Now Shadin says that one of their friends advised them to not clean the bike with water, instead clean it with a wet towel. He said it sounds painful and will take time, but it will be long lasting for the bike. He also reckons that his rear wheel basically decided to fail because of washing it with water. Now, what your friend has said there, I don't know how good a friend it is, but I wouldn't listen to that advice, to be perfectly honest with you. Instead, I would use a hose pipe always, just to rinse down the frame and all the other parts, just try and rinse off any road debris, grit, stones, anything like that. Because if you go ahead with a wet towel and try and wipe it all clean, what's going to happen is any of those little tiny bits of grit that are stuck on the frame, well, you're going to start scratching the bike, and your friend is not going to be a friend for very long, are they, once you start to scratch that up. As for it ruining the back wheel and the hub, which they've said in there, try to avoid lots of water, being aimed at any components with bearings, and because ultimately that water will get in there. It is a slow process, but you want to try and prolong your components for as long as possible. So in short, no, don't use a wet towel to clean your bike. Next up is Peter. Peter's got a new bike, and the rear derailleur on it is the Shimano R9100 rear mech. That's one of the ones with the shadow style design. Now Peter says they find it incredibly difficult to remove and replace the rear wheel on the bike. They're even having to partly deflate the tyre, in fact, to get it out. He'd love to find a better way. Any ideas? Right then, Peter, those design of rear mechs actually have quite an increased amount of spring tension in the derailleur to try and pull the chain forward a little bit, basically to try and get better tension in the whole drivetrain system. But the downside of that is, in fact, like you say, it does make the rear wheel slightly more difficult to get out. But once you've undone that quick release skewer, with one hand, try and rotate the rear derailleur backwards slightly and then just knock the wheel out. You should be able to do that A-OK, but like I say, the actual increased spring tension in those models of rear derailleur is trying to keep it pushed forward, but it can be a little bit troublesome to just put it back, whack out the wheel. Jobs are good. Next up is a question from Ludwig. Now Ludwig says they're looking to upgrade the crankset on their bike. At the moment, they've got the Shimano FC RS510 chainset. Now, the main reason for wanting to upgrade is that they want to get some shorter cranks because Ludwig has got too much toe overlap. However, can they swap them out for a 105 or Ortega crankset? Not sure about the bottom bracket compatibility. Right then, Ludwig, that model of chainset you've got is one of the latest styles, so it's not the old Octolink style bottom bracket or a square tape or anything. Instead, you've got a 24mm axle diameter on your chainset, which means, good news, my friend, you can put in a 105, an Ortega, a Dura-Ace, anything which is using a Holotech 2 standard is going to work just fine. Right, next up is Tineye, who've got themselves a new bike and they've settled on their position and they want to cut down their steerer tube. However, they've got disc brakes on the bike, which is internally routed in a hydraulic system, and reading between the lines, basically, Tineye, you just want to do this with as least dismantling as possible, I reckon. So what I could recommend to you is get the bike supported horizontally and then remove the stem from the steerer and then have marked out where you want to cut through the steerer tube. But importantly here too is to remember to use all your personal protection equipment, so a dust mask, gloves, safety specs, all those things, and also cover up the head tube, for example, because you don't want any of the carbon dust to get inside of the actual headset bearings and start to contaminate them or anything like that, because these particles are so small and fine, they do get literally everywhere. So you can imagine now you've got the steerer tube and it's coming across you in front like that, and you can just simply saw through it. Get through it as straight as possible because it is going to help the internal steerer bung too to sit nice and flush with the top if you've got one of those styles. But ultimately, yeah, that's a nice easy hack to do. Just make sure you do clean up that carbon dust. Don't blow it anywhere because it's not good stuff to get inside of your lungs. Next up is Lex. Now Lex wants to know, they're using Shimano 105 with a non-series disc brake, mechanical ones, but they want to shift them over to hydraulic disc brakes. Is it possible to do so with the same mechanical levers, or do I have to get new ones? If so, what else other than the levers should I also change? Well, Alex, the good news is for you, you don't need to go ahead and change those levers because there is in fact a few different options out there for you to investigate. One of them is the TRP HYRD, I think it's called, which is a mechanically operated hydraulic disc brake caliper. So you use your standard cables, it goes in and attaches, and then it controls hydraulic pistons inside there. Winning all day long. Check it out. Right, and final question is in from David VC, who says, can I set up Shimano Di2 with synchro shift and use the hidden buttons to shift up and down, or alternatively set both of the left lever buttons to shift up and both of the right ones to shift down, similar to what the SRAM ETAP system is, thus making it easier to use with gloves? Right, David, the good news is for you is that you can, using Shimano's eTube software, you can go on in and you can program away all of those shift buttons to your heart's content and play around. I even know a friend of mine once pranked someone by plugging their bike into it and changed all the settings overnight, and the next day went out to ride and he didn't have a clue what was going on with the buttons. But yet you can do that, and it's actually really good. And in fact, you can even do it with the Campagnolo EPS too. Because I saw Caleb Ewan at the Tour Down Under, he was playing around trying to find the optimal weighing basically to change his gears because he'd been using Shimano for a number of seasons beforehand. But yeah, just plug it into the YouTube software and have a little investigation. Right, I do hope I've been able to help answer and solve your bike-related problems. If you've got one, remember to submit it down there in the comment section below, or alternatively on social media using the hashtag AskGCN. Also, like and share this video with your friends. Big old thumbs up. Don't forget to check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. And now for another cracking video, how about clicking just down here.